like notes through the hourglass. These are the songs of our lives.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Songs of Our Lives. I am Brad Rose. I am a musician, a composer, a writer, the founder of Foxy Digitalis, and somebody who thinks about sound and music far more than is healthy. Each week I invite on a guest, often a musician, but sometimes not, and we talk about songs that have kind of been with them along the way, left their mark, and all that is in between. This week, I'm excited to welcome Ryan Potts, aka Aquarelle. It's kind of interesting that Ryan and I have been. So Aquarelle is really great, for lack of a better word, like experimental sort of drone-based electronic music, and we've been in the same scene or whatever you want to call it for the last 15 or so years, and. I think Foxy Digitalis has covered Aquarelle and like before, in the 2003 era, also, after, and just somehow, I think we exchanged some emails and stuff along the way, but we never really had a conversation. And so this felt really, really long overdue because as we talked about at the beginning, like, I think that the people we know and stuff, it's like the Venn diagram's like a perfect circle. So I was really excited to have him on. He had an album that came out earlier this year, back in May, on Debacle Records called Verdant Machine. And I think it's one of the most underrated records of 2023, if I'm honest, because I didn't see hardly anybody talking about it, but it is a wonderful record. And the thing that especially struck me and like caught my attention is that it doesn't really sound like any other Aquarelle records. And he kind of used a different approach. And anyway, we talk about that too in the episode, but when I first heard it, and it kind of took me aback in a really good way. And I think it's a really brave thing to do that. Just like decide, hey, I'm going to change it up, do something different, and see how it goes. So anyway, this episode was a ton of fun. Like I said, long overdue. And we recorded this on Zoom last week or the week before. I don't know. Anyway, and yeah, it was great. So I hope you enjoy it. My guest today is a musician, a composer, a person, and anyway, and he doesn't know this, but his album cover from earlier this year is like one of my absolute favorite album covers of 2023, and I don't even know if I can explain why. But it is Ryan Potts. Hello.
Hello.
I guess I could have said Aquarelle. Maybe that I should have asked you. Should I introduce you as Ryan or as Aquarelle?
Both, either. Yeah.
And did I pronounce that right, or is there some weird pronunciation?
That's the way I've always pronounced it, and I've had people who speak French correct me on it, and I'm like, I don't know.
I'm not French. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Apologies to the French-speaking listeners who are listening to this and are deeply offended. So, yeah, before we get into it, I want to talk about Verdant Machine because I've listened to your work for a long time. It's kind of funny that this is the first time we've ever actually talked because we've sort of run in the same circle. Like, I'm sure the Venn diagram of people we know is a just perfect circle.
Yeah. for 15 years or something, too. Like, not fleeting.
Right. And so I don't know how that happened. But one of the things that struck me so much about this record is, well, it's like it was your first one in what, 5-6 years? It's been a hot minute.
6, yeah. Yeah.
What so pardon me for not, were you doing other stuff in that time? Or just kind of
a little bit. I mean, I just always I just get so focused on just like experimenting and trying new things and scrapping 99% of what that's just part of the process. And then I really started working on it yeah, like 6 years ago.
Wow.
I mean, it takes a lot, and then every piece of it just takes a lot to put together and make sure it's coherent to the vision that I want. So
right.
yeah, but that's the fun part. It can be taxing, but that's fun. That's why we do this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Was there, so obviously one of the big things about this record that when I first heard it was, oh shit, there's like no guitars on here.
Yeah, zero.
Was that a, like, I mean, when you, after your last record or whatever, and when you started thinking about the approach and the concept for this record, was that something very purposeful you had in mind? Like, I want to do something without guitars?
Well, it was pretty easy because I'm a terrible guitar player.
I feel that.
So it's like, it was an easy pivot. It was really setting up a whole new, essentially like a no input mixer setup. And that just like was so freeing. And it was like, I don't even need this thing I can't even play. And so it was just like just focusing on, electronics and sine waves in this mixer setup. That was really, it was just fun and freeing in a way that I hadn't felt in a while.
That's, yeah, I know that feeling. Guitar was my first instrument. It's like the one I've played the longest, and I feel like it's the one I'm the worst at. So I don't know how that happens, but yeah. I get, so the other thing I want to ask about too, like I mentioned in the intro, is the cover. I don't know why I love this cover so much. Sam from Debacle sent me a copy of the record, and I seriously want to put it on my wall.
Me too. Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit about the cover, like who did the cover and like all the nitty gritty details?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's actually a really quick sort of funny story. I love album covers, and I spend like once a record is sort of in its form, I mean, I spend so much time just thinking about it, trying to do research, find art, just and this actually came from an Instagram account I follow, and it says, nice. I don't know who this is. I have no idea, but they essentially they live in Japan, and they take photos of just essentially like stuff you would ignore, stuff in an alley, but has just various color patterns and weird symmetries. And I love that shit. And I was just always taken by it. And so I found this one. I mean, there's so many amazing images on there. Found this one, emailed them, explaining my whole thing. It was like really it was really over the top, like how much I love it, how it connects with what I feel like I'm doing. And it was like just a few word response. Yes, no English. And then they sent me a high res version of that. And that was it. It was just like,
that's amazing.
Yes, no English. Here you go. I was like, wow, so incredible. Like, didn't ask for anything. Like, it was just God. Yeah, it was. I felt like so lucky to have that like happen. So
it's so good. I don't even. And there's something about like that, like blues and yellows together for what is a very. I can't even really explain it. I don't know. It's like a thing that just I have this sort of visceral reaction to of like I'm drawn to. But I feel like it just encapsulates the music so well in an unexpected way. It's it sounds like it's like serendipity, basically.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I felt, and I was just like so ecstatic because I just felt, like again, like it just connected to what I was doing, and it just made sense in a way I could never describe, but I feel. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
usually the best, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like that's often a way that I experience like most music and art. And it, I mean, obviously, as some, I have a website where my entire thing is telling people, is explaining why I like something, but it's just, I've had people ask me, they're like, what is your philosophy? And it's like, I don't know, man. It's just vibes. It's literally just, it's like, and trying to then put words to those vibes, but I literally like, why does one thing, and that's kind of the beauty of this podcast is like, because to hear the context behind things, it's like this album means a lot because A, B, and C that have nothing to do with it directly,
Exactly.
And so, yeah, I don't know. Well, I really, really like the record. I'm excited. Like I said, I'm always excited when somebody like somebody's work who I know, and then something comes out and it's like, whoa, wait a minute, this is something else. I think that's always kind of I don't know. I think it's kind of it can be a scary thing to do. But that's kind of a big part of why we do it, right?
The point. Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
I guess so. Hopefully, it won't be another 5-6 years before the next one, but we'll see.
Never know,
Yeah. I mean, sometimes these things, it's like we've all been there, where it's like you have this 2-month period where it's like, well, okay, here it is. I finished this thing because it just happened.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into the meat of this. Why everybody's here? I don't know why everybody's here, but I know why I'm here. Because I invented this thing. So
let's do it.
Let's go all the way back. Ryan, let's go all the way back to the first song you remember.
It's gotta be the Ghostbusters theme. Yeah. Ray Parker Jr. It was like honestly one of the only cassettes I owned when I was young. And it was the only song on the cassette that I listened to just over and over.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just like it's just makes no sense. but I sort of love it. It's just you're a kid and you're just full of emotion that you can't describe, and it's like, no, I get this. And I feel like that's been a thread through my whole life, and it just starts so young when you don't have any language to describe what you're feeling, but you're like, this shit's good. I'm into it.
I think it's so interesting. Like the first things I remember too were soundtracks. For me, it was like La Bamba and Top Gun and Footloose. And I've talked to a lot of people. Like, it's so interesting how, I don't know, like soundtracks I feel like they were like a different thing then.
Yeah. Like, agreed. Yeah.
But yeah, Ghostbusters, I remember, so my kid's 10, so this must have been like 6-7 years ago, when she was like, before she was in like kindergarten and stuff, when she was in daycare, and somehow she learned this song at daycare, and for, I don't know, 2 months straight, constantly would like she'd be sitting on the toilet or something, and you would just hear, "Who you gonna call?" And
I know that line. It's just indelible. Like you can't get it out of your head. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things you could walk into a room and just like yell that, and 90% of the room is going to know exactly what you're doing.
I know. It's incredible. Yeah. It sticks with you.
Yeah. I love it. And I mean, and the song itself is a banger. Like the bass line is so fucking good. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to have it stuck in my head now, probably for a hot minute.
Me too.
Okay. Do you consider yourself much of a crier? You cry very often?
No. Honestly, no. Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of people that I talk to are that way, but music can have the effect on us to make us feel things that we would maybe don't want to. What's a song that will often either make you cry or make you feel, kind of feel those emotions that even if you're not actually crying, it's in that zone?
Yeah. Well, this would have been my answer anyway, but especially after Brian McBride passing earlier this year, it's Stars of the Lid, Requiem for Dying Mothers, Part 1 and 2. Just devastating and beautiful and haunting. And I was able to tell Adam, who's, second half of the duo, a couple times just how much this music meant to me and how deeply I felt it. But I was never able to tell Brian, and it sort of disappoints me because it's like just so much love for it and so moving and just matters so much to me. And so, yeah, this was an easy one. Stars of the Lid. When he passed away this year, that was so, like certain, I mean, death is sad. Profound thoughts here for me, but like certain deaths like hit harder, especially like, and when yes, like it was unexpected,
and B, at least to me, I don't, maybe people who knew, like, I don't know the circumstance, not mine.
Right. Yeah.
But like when it's somebody who, as we talked about, you and I kind of in this same scene. And as far as this, whatever this scene, experimental, ambient, drone, whatever you want to call it, like Stars of the Lid are one of the most, like, so many of us wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for Stars of the Lid.
Yeah. It's a hallmark of just everything. Like,
yeah,
it really is. Like, it's like, and so many people try to replicate it and just can't and will never. There's just something like you can't, it's magic,
Yeah, that's always one of the things. That's such a good point, because there's a lot of music that, people try to replicate or in this vein that's good and like that I like, but none of it it just doesn't have, and this, like we were talking about, I don't know that I have the words for what that is.
Yeah. No, exactly.
But yeah, these pieces, like in particular too, are just, oh my God, there's just something about the chord progressions or something, like the arrangement of it that.
Yeah, and like, just the pacing of it too, and it's just like how patient but powerful it is. Like, it's just and I feel like it's like on this edge of, it's like triumphant but soul destroy. Like it's and they somehow walk this line that, again, it feels impossible, and I think part of what makes, because this song makes me feel a lot of feelings, and it's because there are these two like huge emotions on sort of either side of it. And it's so intense. Oh, amazing song. And somehow part two ending, like with the dog whimpering, it's like, it always sticks out, but it's like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's like, you hear that's like, I feel it too, buddy.
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
Oh, that's, yeah. So yeah, rest in peace, Brian McBride, one of the all-timers.
Indeed.
Well, let's brighten things up here a little bit. What's a song that always puts you in a better mood?
The Ronettes, Baby I Love You. I mean, Ronnie has the best voice of all time in recorded music, at least. But I love the Ronettes in general, but this song in particular, you cannot deny the power and energy in the tone. I mean, I love a lot of girl group stuff, but it's like, this is the crowning achievement of that era, in my opinion.
Totally agree.
It's just,
totally agree.
It's even just thinking or seeing those words, like the Ronettes, baby, it's like, it just has it. Like, I can't deny it. Like, we were just talking about, like, really depressive, and it's like, I'm in a completely different space now, and I'm not even listening to it.
Right.
That's how powerful it is.
It's there's something to be said about a piece of music that, you don't have to hear a note of it. You just see the words, and you feel that what that song gives you immediately.
Yeah.
And her voice. Oh my God, one of the greatest voices ever, and God, one of the like most tragic fucking stories ever.
Yes. I know her biography is just like harrowing, like just insane stuff. Like,
yeah.
But
moments of magic along the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, God, I love that stuff too. Like the 50s, 60s girl groups. Oh my God, just it's some of the greatest music ever made. I mean,
yes, yeah, it will never be done again for a million reasons, and it's like, so you got to cherish those records and those 45s. It's like,
absolutely. Well, I feel like you could have picked this song for the next question, and would have been like, I have no arguments here, but you didn't. So, what is objectively the best song of all time?
You are right. I definitely, like, I wrote this one down really early, and I was like, wow, the Ronettes could be any one of these. But yeah, this I didn't expect to land here, honestly, and this was one of the hardest ones to kind of come up with. But I have to go with Tony Conrad for Violins. And maybe it's a cheat code because it's like, it's a whole record, and I often think of in terms of, you know, records and not necessarily
Right.
songs,
Same.
but just the purity of vision and execution, unparalleled. And like it just links up to so many other passions of mine, obviously, like, you know, the minimalism angle, strings, but also like the Velvet Underground connection and like the nascent energy of rock and roll with violins. I mean, which is like I think if people see, you know, 4 violins, it's like their mind would go totally different to what the music actually is.
Yeah.
Just a roaring, thunderous, like unrelenting, just statement. And it's just it's what, like, I used to before I used to have a joke where it's like, before I owned a house, I was like, well, people clearly probably just buy houses so they can blast 4 violins as loud as they can instead of an apartment where you have to do it. Like, honestly, like, I was like, because it's like, yeah, you need that volume and force, and it's like, yeah, it's amazing, unbelievable.
I can't argue with that. I like one of my. I wouldn't know if this is one of my favorite memories, but like I had this experience. I don't know how many years ago it was now, 5-6 years ago. I had a friend in town, and his dad was like this ridiculous audiophile, which I'm not an audiophile at all. But he had, you know, he's like his dad was one of these people who had like $100,000 speakers or some shit.
Yeah.
And so my friend was like, "Hey, gonna go over to my dad's house and listen to records and drink some beers. Like, do you want to come? Like, bring a couple records and we'll play them on the system." And I was like, "Okay, do you like, you know?" And of course, a couple other people came, and everybody brought, you know, pretty straightforward stuff. So like I showed up with a copy of, I brought Rainbow and Curved Air by Terry Riley,
of course,
and 4 violins. And I remember like went to put this on him, and he was like, "Oh, is this some kind of classical?" That, like, because that's where people go.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Not exactly." I was like, and he goes to put it on. I was like, "Just turn it up as loud as you are willing." And it, like, the whole, and, you know, he had this really nice room. It felt very strange. I felt very out of my element, to be honest, but it was incredible. Like the way that, you know, you think of that picture from the 80s, what is like the Max L thing of like the guy in the chair with the like wind,
yes,
that's how it felt. Like, cause it was so intense. And I think he only left it up really loud for a very short period of time. It was like, okay, this is like, what the fuck are you doing? And it was, oh my God, it was like a religious experience.
yeah, exactly. There's something, I mean, volume in the right music. It's like, there is nothing better. It's like,
I think it's such a, you know, like one of the sort of, when I think of volume as an instrument, like one of the main people I go to is Phil Knebloch, who it wasn't really, it's weird to call his stuff performance.
I know. Yeah.
I think of it more as an installation. And in this case, there was a buddy of mine did this installation of a Phil Knebloch piece here in Tulsa. And it was in like one of the museums in town had a gallery space downtown. And like above it, there were some of their offices. And Phil, when he was like, "Yeah, you know, of course we'll do it. You know, it's whatever." But he sent instructions of like, you know, here's where the speakers are placed. Here's the decibel level of each speaker.
Yes.
And it was fucking banana. And I think the first day, like the complaints, because it was just supposed to be on during the day. And it was so, I mean, even, you know, it was so loud. And then he did for the opening, he did a performance that was actually at this museum. It was just the same museum actually where I just did a sound installation, but mine was outside. It's like a very like classical art museum. You know, it's in this old 20s huge mansion. Like, I mean, it's a cool museum, but it was not the place you'd expect Phil Knebloch.
Yeah, and no kidding. I mean, I saw him. It had to be at least 15 years ago, and it was in like some like university basement. Like it wasn't even like so that's a just totally different context than like an actual like
and and people like, so there was like a handful of people there who knew who Phil Nebluck was and were there for that, but most of it was just like museum patrons.
Yeah.
And people were just like, what the hell is, and Phil wanted it louder. Like he was just like, this isn't loud enough. And it was deafening. It was, yeah. So I don't know what that has to do with Tony Conrad, but
a lot of overlap.
Yeah. I feel like they are cut from the same cloth. But yeah, Tony Conrad was one of the first sort of quote unquote minimalists I ever heard of. I remember I used to read that it was Yakuza magazine, was a zine back in the 90s. And that's like where I first read about Lauren Connors and like,
yeah.
But there was I think there was one issue that came with like a CD and it had pieces and I had no idea. I was like 15, had no idea who Tony Conrad was. And I don't remember what the piece was. I'd have to look up, but it was just like, whoa, this is nothing I've ever heard. And then eventually coming to Four Violins, it was like, oh my God.
Well, and so much of that era, it's like I was like, buying books, checking out books, but this is like pre-YouTube. Like so much of it I couldn't actually hear or find.
Right.
And so it's just like you're, reading and just delving into this and like finding snippets on weird online areas when you can, but it's like your imagination just like from reading like a description of like what it is or the process or the approach. It's like amazing how like your mind fills in these blanks. And then I explicitly remember with Four Violins, after like thinking I knew what it was and then like finally hearing it, it was just like this is a completely different animal that's so animalistic in a way.
Yeah.
Like I was not ready for it, and it was instant love.
Yeah. That's I love this pick. That's such I could talk about this stuff for a long time, but we should probably move on. Yeah. Otherwise, people got things to do. Well, what is a song that you used to love, but now you like listen to it and does not so much?
I mean, 9 Inch Nails in general.
Yeah.
But specifically the first track on the Fragile, Somewhat Damaged. I was always a huge fan of the Fragile. It's like my favorite of Reznor's work. But it's just a little too cheesy, and it's just a little too much, and I just like can never listen to it in earnest anymore. And it's like, again, like I think he's got a great vision. It's just like it was a certain time and place for me, as a teenager.
Yeah, right.
And it just doesn't work. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I hadn't listened to this in so long, and it's like he's such a drama queen.
Yes, exactly.
And don't get me wrong, like I'm attracted to that kind of thing, and like I don't know, there's different ways of going about, and on this podcast and other podcasts, I'm a big advocate for being earnest and like being vulnerable and like whimsy and all of these things as being like really powerful things. But like, I don't know, this is a great example of why that's so hard to do, because it can go over the cliff really fast.
Yeah, and it's like, it's funny because on the other side of the Fragile, it's like, that single like Starfuckers, and it's like even then I was like, this is not good. Like even as a teenager, and it's funny that it's just like sort of bled all over a lot of his other work, where I'm like, it just doesn't. It's just drama and like sort of unnecessary.
Yeah, I think, and this is just coming to me. I'm like, I wonder if part of it is just like his delivery hit, because so thinking about the song Hurt, and obviously like the Johnny Cash version is kind of the most famous version at this point.
Yes, yeah.
And it like the 9 Inch Nails version of it, again, it kind of feels the same way. Like it's too like on the nose. It's too like but like the Johnny Cash version does like, and maybe it's because I like Johnny Cash it's Johnny Cash, and it's way more understated, like with the way it's sung and the way. So I don't know. I'm just like thinking out loud here, but because I'm like, maybe it's just something about Reznor's. Like that is what do it for me. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think a lot of like the production and the details and the layers, like especially with that era, it's like it's still some pretty
Yeah.
great stuff, like aesthetically, but yeah, his voice and words and delivery, and it's just like it just doesn't work for me anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, yeah, I'm with you. I kind of makes me like, I want to hear like an instrumental version of the
Yeah,
like of this
right.
stuff. But it's like, that'd probably be fucking awesome. Well, on kind of maybe not the flip side, but related, what's a song that most people or some group of people hate? People don't like it. It's not really revered, but you don't care. You love it anyway.
Well, this one is very specific to my house and what I can play when my wife is around specifically. But
know that feeling.
Times New Viking, Off the Wall. Their record, Rip It Off, is still, it's got to be like top 20 all time for me.
Oh,
I absolutely like it's like it's so damaged and poorly recorded, and that makes it all the better. Just the impact and like how insane, especially this song, like how insanely treble heavy the guitars are. It's just like it's so incredible. And it's like, and then to like bury like honestly like classic, like again, like 60s girl group melody in there amongst the noise and hiss and chaos of the recording. It's like it's genius.
Yeah, I don't know, like one of the things that and this song is like the height of that, how they are able to take something that is like so abrasive and seemingly unlistenable and make it like this catchy, engaging, just so like like it doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all.
And I find me in the right mood, and that's, I honestly, I'm willing to entertain the argument that like Times New Viking is the greatest indie band of all time. Like greatest.
I love it. Rock. I love it.
They're so good.
Yeah, I interviewed Beth, who's like the main vocalist, like right as this came out. And I don't even know if I could call it an interview. I was just like fawning over like, and like trying to get morsels of like how they did this. Like what was and she of course was just like totally nonchalant about it. It's just like, we just like got to get, been a bass and it's like, no, this is amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, they are, God. And I think speaking of bands, I wish there would be like a surprise new album from or something like.
Yeah, I maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like there was whispers of that like a year or two ago, and then like I remember Googling after the fact, and it was just I couldn't find anything.
I thought the same thing. I don't know. I thought I heard something earlier this year, and when I was prepping for this, I was searching, Googling it, like looking on Twitter, nothing. So apparently there's some weird cosmic force at work here for those of us who are obsessed with Times New Viking that sends us like prods every so often of like, hey, and we think it's real, and maybe that means eventually it will be real. But
I hope so. I can hope.
God.
But we have this song, we have this record, and just can't listen to it with other people around my house, and that's fine.
Yeah, we all have to make sacrifices. It's okay.
Exactly.
Well, are you a romantic? Do you think of yourself as a romantic?
No one's ever asked me that question. First of all, God, I let's go with maybe.
Okay, it's fair. I like to think of myself as a romantic, but I don't know that anybody else would agree. That's the way I look.
Yeah.
So, well, what do you think is the most romantic song then?
Luckily I made this choice. I got married to my wife when I was young. We were both like 23, and we really. Oh,
yeah. I was 24. She was 23, and we've been married for 20 years.
Yeah. We've been married 15 now as of this month, which is crazy. But we were young, and we chose our first dance song as James Brown, "Try Me," and to this day, I'm like, this is the best song we could have picked. And it's he's known obviously for a lot of flash and funk, but goddamn, the yearning in his voice, it just like every syllable is just like trembling with it's oh, amazing, just absolutely perfect. And yeah, it just encapsulates everything of just what it is to love and to just to yearn and to feel that romance and be just swept away with it. Just awesome. James Brown.
Oh my God. Yeah. No, I that was one of my notes on here, is that like this side of James Brown gets way less attention, but I love it so much. And I think, I mean, everybody recognizes like that James Brown is one of like the greatest of all time, but not for this. Like, this is part of why. To me, it's because he could he could do the flash and the like pure energy and better than anybody probably ever has. Yes. But he could also do this almost better than anybody.
Yeah, and it's like this. It's almost not fair. Right? This other singer, it's like, come on, like, dude.
Yeah, that. Whenever I remember, it was at my last job. We always have fucking icebreakers and shit at meetings before, and I hate that shit. But one of them was
likewise.
Yeah, it's the worst. But one of them was like, if you could see any performer. Like any live performer, like living or dead, like who would it be? And my answer for that question is always James Brown. Like I never saw James Brown, and just like to see James Brown at his peak, I can't even imagine. Probably was nothing like it ever in the history of the world.
No, and you say peak, and it's like he had several peaks. Right. It's like which is like wild. Yeah.
Oh God. No, I was really glad you picked this, because I don't like. I just don't hear people talking about James Brown's sort of softer side.
Yeah, I know, and it's like obviously it means so much to me, but it's like I have no idea really how popular this song is, how much people play it. It's like I don't even know, but it's like amazing.
Yeah, so good. Well, what's a song that, for better or worse, changed your perspective on an artist?
So I've lived most of my adult life in Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Lo is from Duluth, and I honestly I never got it. I loved Cranky when they're putting out like everything in their catalog. Could never get into Lo, but man, Lo, Quorum, the first track on Double Negative. that changed everything for me. I mean, that was my favorite album of that year. Just amazing ability to really pick apart their sound, and honestly it blew me away. And it's like it was one of those things where it's like I remember first listening to it, it's like I was never gonna check it out, but somebody somewhere was like describing it as like My Bloody Valentine meets Ian William Craig in like a feedback storm or whatever, and I'm just like, what? Like,
that sounds amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And then like it was like immediately I was like, this is music I always like imagined and wanted to hear, but like could never find it to that extreme. It's how it's like I mean, I cannot say enough great things about really their last two records. Amazing.
I'm so glad to hear somebody else say. So I talked about this on a recent episode, the one with Natasha Pickowicz, and Lo was for the longest time I had similar experience. Like it was this band that like everybody I knew loved them, and I tried to get, but it was also like part of it too was it eventually got to the point where it just felt so overwhelming because there was so much and they were so low. It was like, I don't know where to start. I don't know how to even approach this. And because every time I did, it was like, I had the same, like it didn't quite land. And then I just kind of gave up and just was accepted. Like, this isn't for me. And so, I mean, this was a couple months ago now. This is where she picked Days Like These, which I think was off their not this record, but the one after it, I think maybe.
Yeah. Hey, what? Yeah.
Yeah. And holy shit. It all like, and I don't have the words for it. And so then you pick this, and like after that episode, I had kind of started digging more into Low, and this song it had the same like days like there. It's so good.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And it's like, it really blew me away. I mean, I cannot think of a more dramatic like 180 I took on this. Like you know, I mean, being like, I've seen them just on other bills shows, and honestly, like, bored the shit out of me like seeing them live. Like, I'm talking like 15 years ago, and then like to put out something like this far into their career, that's just like totally just bold. Like it's really, I mean, that's what artists and people should do, you know? Remain curious, see what happens, even when honestly it's like sort of makes no sense. Like, right. like they're known for their, like, you know, their vocal harmonies, and then it's like, no, what if we just crush this to dust and like recast it in this, like, it's just amazing. I
mean, that's that's what I love about like these later albums is the sort of recontextualizing of those harmonies of like on days like these, it's just like, oh, we're still gonna do them, but we're gonna put so much fucking distortion on it that it's just gonna like it. I don't even know. Like, it's just it's this like living thing. It's so and this like there's this one, to me it feels like it's like ghostly, and like it's like these voices are coming from beyond or something, which of course like now takes on this whole other like it's so much, and it's so, oh my god, it's just like it's so heavy and just so stunning, so good.
And it's like amongst all that, it's like really like amazing, like just songwriting too, like real melodies that like get caught in your head amongst all like the sonic chaos that's just flying around it. It's I love the vision of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. All right, so obviously you and I both make music that is generally instrumental, but are you a lyrics person? Like, I mean, do you pay attention to lyrics very much?
That's funny. Absolutely not. to be honest with you, unless it's totally taking me out or distracting me, like if it's so over the top. But no, I've always been that way. It's like it's like if I want to hear words in a certain way, I can read poetry. It's like I want music for something else. But
so what are your favorite lyrics? Like, you have to choose.
Well, Joanna Newsom, and honestly, I could have picked a number of her songs, but I chose for this Sawdust and Diamonds. And again, it's almost like more the way she like untangles emotion and meaning from the way she's singing too. Like, it's just like so unique. And it's like, I was even trying to like pick out like certain lines from the song, because it's like, I mean, it's extensive, but it's like 9 minutes of just, you know, just like her tumbling through these just really evocative words. And it's like the way she rhymes and then like doesn't really repeat, and it just keeps flowing. It's just, it's like, talk about like a unique musician. I mean, I was lucky enough to like see her on her first US tour, which I think was 2003, maybe early 04.
Wow.
And it was just like, it was honestly just like, okay, this is special and undeniable, and something I'm gonna carry for the rest of my life. So
yeah, she's well, I've made no secret on this pod, like one of my absolute favorite artists in the world. I think she's just so, there's nobody, it's hard to say that like in 2023, like, I mean, there's so much music, there's nobody like Joanna Newsom.
No.
Nobody.
No.
Like, not even close. Like, but yeah, this song, I said this on Twitter, like I've recorded a couple of these this week and somebody else picked this song. This song is like I said, everyone's trying to kill me because this song, it is, I mean, it like when you say something like a piece of music is a work of art, like this is a work of art.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And God, and if, and maybe I'll put it in the playlist. Like there's this live version from 2011, which I shared this on Twitter today, but it is one of the most incredible things you will ever see. Like, because like technically this song seems impossible.
Yes. Yeah.
And when you watch her play it, it's just holy, but then, and that's just the instrumental part. And then you add in the melody, like, and again, like you said, it doesn't repeat. It takes you on this sort of, it's like got this strange sort of snaking arrangement, and it's sort of like to me, this song is like you feel like sort of lost in a drift in these emotions that are so big and so much that you don't think you can handle them, but like you can. You can, like, and yeah, but that performance of it, oh my God. And there's this moment in it. Well, it's the lyric. It's like I can't remember the exact one, but it's something like like the wave, the breaks in the way, or the troughs of the waves, and some, I can't remember the line.
Yeah.
But she sings it, and then she kind of looks off into the distance. And every time, like if I watch, like even thinking about it, it makes me emotional because it's so intense. Oh,
and she really feels it. Like I don't know if I've ever seen a musician live like be, and not just once, several times, like be so openly like emotional. It's almost like she's unearthing something with her playing that like she is moved by, just because it's like so much beyond her. Like it's like bigger than, you know, the harp she's playing and the words she's saying in her amazing voice. It's just like, and it's like even she can't help but be moved by it, which is like actually sort of amazing.
Yeah. Oh God. I love, yeah. And like there are so many of her songs that could be, I mean, her lyrics are great, and I mean, her music's great. I don't know. I think she may be the artist that has come up the most on this podcast so far.
That is, I've noticed. That's actually very cool. I wouldn't have expected that, honestly, but it's like, it's like sweeps through so many different, like, and it's like, I don't even really, you know, I don't like, she's not folk music, but she's not like, it's like, what is it? She just like flows in this like weird area that just like so many people just get, which is very cool. Like, yeah.
I hope I don't, but please God, nobody pick a Joanna Newsom song for a little while.
You can't take it.
I can't take it. But God, I hope she has a new album come out next.
I know.
People keep asking me because, you know, I'm like a quote unquote music journalist. Like, oh, do you know anything? I'm like, I don't know anything. I know nothing. She played a show earlier this year where she played a bunch of new songs.
With the Fleet Foxes guy, right? Like just surprise opener.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's, I mean, it must take so long for her. I mean, and that, you know, talking about artists who kind of like every one of her albums, like they're her, but they're all different. Like she kind of reinvents herself every time, which again, I don't understand. Okay, well, I'm gonna stop talking about Joanna Newsom because I could talk about Joanna Newsom all day.
Yeah,
that'd be weird.
Yeah, I mean, sort of awesome, but weird in terms of the podcast.
Yeah, it's the Joanna Newsom podcast,
which should exist. Actually,
it should actually. That would be okay. Don't need any new podcast. Right. Well, let's go on to happier things, and let's talk about what song you have or can listen to the most.
Banaz, Endless Summer, the title track.
I mean, what a song.
I mean, just like, it's like, especially, it's like, I think it's like, I don't know, 45, 50 seconds in when like the first, like, just fizzy filtered guitar strum comes. It's
Yeah.
like, I mean, it's one of the most like amazing sounds that I think, and it honestly is like predictably like really shaped like my creative desires and like my outlook on music, which is obviously like it's just apparent. Like it's
Yeah.
just it is what it is. But
Right.
but it's just like, yeah, it's just like listening to that, it's just like it's so intuitive and it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And like it's just it's in it also melds again like two worlds that I love, where it's like that like rich layered pop music with just sounds like so corrupted and manipulated and just, but it comes out so natural, especially in that song. It's just like it's just it's beautiful.
Yeah. God. Finesse, like 2000s finesse, man, that was like between like Endless Summer and Venice and Black Sea and like, what a run.
It was I mean it actually it meant so like I for a long time pursued like music writing, like especially in my younger years, and like I was naive enough to submit.
God, what an idiot, Ryan. Why would anybody do that?
No. I'm getting to the naive part. No, I submitted like a really extensive like proposal to 33 and a Third, like the books on Endless Summer. Like that would ever happen and get made. Like, but I was just like, no, man, like
I would read the shit out of it.
I know. I was like, I gotta try. I gotta try to do it.
I feel like now there would be a better chance of that happening, because like this album has become like, I don't know. I feel like that's interesting. I wonder if I saw like next year, you know, they announced like, oh, here's our next slate of books, and there was one on Endless Summer, like I wouldn't go like, holy shit. I'd be like, oh, cool. Like,
okay. I mean, this was
maybe you were ahead of your time.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so good. This is like one of those albums that like it'll never get old. I will never tire of it. I will always, like, anytime I put it on, I will just be in love with it. And
yeah. I still like, I feel like there's been a few reissues, and I literally have like the double vinyl, the original just single LP, and then like 3 different CD versions. I'm just like, I just want it. I want more.
Yeah. Yes. Give me all the Endless Summer.
Yes.
Yeah. Keep it coming. Well, moving to more current times, what's the last song that you completely fell in love with?
I mean, so much music, like so much. But what immediately came to mind, even though it's like a few years old at this point, but I still listen to it all the time. Headroom, How to Grow Evil Flowers, just the first track. I mean, this, like, talk about just like a vision and execution. Just like, and I've always loved just the raw austerity of feedback, honestly. And Chrissy as the lead guitarist and writer of this just like stays there the whole time, 10 minutes over and over, and just like keeps weaving in different textures. And it's like, it's yes, like you don't need more. You don't just stay in that one place and just let it wash over me.
Well, and it feels to me, it's like being able to do that is way more difficult and like going other. I mean, and can we just like have a quick conversation about how Chrissy is one of the best fucking guitarists on the planet?
It's honestly, it's like, and I don't know what no arguments for me. It's like
she's so good.
And it's so unique too.
Yes.
Like it's just like, it's like instantly, you know it. It's just that like warped like feedback that you can just like hits you in the perfect way. It's like,
I have a friend here who I play music with, and he actually went to school with her like in college. I think he was a couple years ahead, and he was telling me when she came in, everyone was just like, oh shit, yeah, she's like better than all of us. Like she was like, it was immediate from the beginning that she was on something else.
Yes. And you know what? He was right. He was right.
Yeah, she's so she's one of those people I don't know. And maybe, as somebody who's ostensibly a music journalist, maybe I should be aware of these things, but I feel like she does not get anywhere near the credit or adulation that she should. But,
well, didn't you interview her and she was like, yeah, not really working on any headroom stuff right now.
Yeah.
It's just like,
and I was like, no, but that was like a year and a half ago. So maybe things have changed. Let's hope.
Okay. There's hope.
Whenever I post this episode, I'll tag her in it and be like, hey, you came up. Please. We need some answers.
Yeah, exactly. Please do. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're in the home stretch. 2 big questions left. First, what is the song that means the most to you? And not necessarily it's because of the song, but you associate it with something or someone or an experience, and it's just super important to you.
Yeah. This is Spacemen 3, So Hot, off of Playing with Fire. And it's a pretty languid, depressive song, but I started, amazing piece of work, but I started singing it to my son when he was like 2 months old, and it was like, again, very, very, very sad language in it, and I was like, always to myself, it's like, well, once he can understand words, I'll just switch to a different song, you know. And it's like, and now he's almost 8, and I still sing it to him every single night. He's got
man. Oh, wow.
and it's like, it's like, there's something, and it's like, I love like the malleability of sound in songs to mean different things in different contexts. And like, this was just like, this is such a reminder every night when I do it of that, where it's like, this still just feels right, even though the words are clearly off. Yeah.
Man, we're like the same person. So I did an episode of this where Nina Dante interviewed me. It's on Patreon. I don't know if I'll ever release it in the public. We'll see. I don't know if people want to hear it. But my answer to this question, it was a Tom Waits song, but it was the exact same reason. It was because I sang it to my daughter when she was a baby. And I don't still sing it. She would probably kill me. But it was the same thing, and it was a Tom Waits song. It was Hold On was the song. And it's like,
yes,
it's like such a, it's the same. It's like this really kind of dark song, but in a way, but in the context, it's like, I don't know. And it's still the song that means the most to me. Cause
we might be the same person, because I love that song.
Oh, it's a great song.
just, oh man.
I have no tattoos, but there was a point in my life where I almost got a tattoo that said, if you live it up, don't live it down. Or wait, what is it? Live it up, you won't live it down. Whatever the lyric of the song is, because I just love that song and love that lyric. But thankfully, yeah. But So Hot that's awesome. I love that story. Spacemen 3 are perfect band.
Perfect, exactly.
And I don't even remember how I first heard them. I feel like they're just a band in my head has just always been there.
You know what's funny is that I actually had a weird experience when I was like a teenager. I was like super into the Stooges and trying to figure out their lineage and where that went. And then it's like, oh yeah, Spaceman 3 has some of that, like just reading about it. And then I remember listening to it, I was like, this doesn't sound like the Stooges. I'm like 16 or whatever. But then so it took me a little bit where it's like, wow, how did I totally miss my younger years of not understanding this?
Just weren't ready.
Yep.
Just work.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, bringing things to the close here. What is, at least at this moment in time, what is your favorite song?
My Bloody Valentine, To Hear Knows When. It just feels like falling in love, just fully enveloping. This has probably honestly been my answer for, I don't know, at least 2 decades. It's just, yeah, it is what it is. In our world, everyone knows it. It doesn't diminish its power at all. Exactly. Yeah. That's it.
There are certain songs that, and certain pieces of music that are ubiquitous and part of the zeitgeist for a reason.
Yeah. Yes.
And this is one of them. It's just it's pure maximalism in the best way. nobody has figured out how to like make music like this that wraps itself around you like My Bloody Valentine did. Like,
No.
There's music that does it in different ways, but not like this.
No. And I also love, just like, obviously there's been endless stories about the recording of this album, but to like the decision to like leave off drums and just have this perfect tambourine, it's just like so subtle, but like, it's so perfect, just sitting there in the mix while everything swirls around it. It's
And when you think, like, obviously, you know, knowing what it sounds like, it's like, yeah, but like in the moment to do that is an insane decision. Like,
yes, it is. Yeah. But and when they play it live now, it's like there's huge booming percussion like over the whole track, and I'm just like, okay, that's an interesting.
It's not the same. Like, it's still, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think it still rips, but it's like it's not the same.
It's not the same. Yeah.
Well, can't argue with that. Well, this has been wonderful. We've realized that we're the same person in a lot of ways, so that's always fun. But yeah, so okay, the record it's out now. It's been out for a hot minute on Debacle Records, of course. Someday there'll be another one. Anything else like coming up that you want to mention or no?
Thanks, Brad. Thanks to Sam for putting out the LP on Debacle. Yeah.
Well, everybody should go listen to it because anybody who is a reader of Foxy Digitalis I'm pretty certain, would quite enjoy it. So, Ryan, thanks a million.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Take care.
Once again, thank you to Ryan Potts, aka Aquarelle, for taking the time and really being thoughtful about his list. It's funny, I approached him about this back in I think August, and it was a couple months later that he was finally like, okay, I got my list, and then it took us a month to find time to record. But I really just appreciate how much he put into it and all that, and I think it really shows. And a lot of great conversations. The Patreon section of this one is really great. We got into it kind of went off the rails a little bit, and it's longer than I think any other Patreon section, but something to consider. You know, hey, sign up for the patreon.com/FoxyDigitalis. You get to hear that a whole lot more. As always, there is a playlist of all of Ryan's picks in the show notes, and if you are listening to this on the rss.com Songs of Our Lives site, which is like kind of the main site, there are chapters, and each chapter lines up to where we talk about each question, and there's a link directly from the chapter to the song. So something to try out if you're listening on your computer or on your phone and not driving. Please don't do that while you're driving. Don't need that. Okay, I think that's about it today. You all know where you can find me. Foxy Digitalis on various social media. Shoot me an email, send me a voicemail. And again, join the Patreon. And thanks for kind of being on this ride so far this year. We got a lot of really awesome episodes. I mean, there's been a lot of really awesome episodes, but there's even more awesome episodes. That's really hard to say. Awesome episodes. You want to say opum episodes, which is even harder to say, but that's anyway. Coming up in 2024, which sounds really weird. So keep an eye out for that. And thanks again to Carl Antonowitz for the intro. And until next time, just keep on listening to whatever the hell you want.